Radio Network at ParanormalKing.com.
Welcome to the Paranormal News Insider for the week of March 5th, 2019, and this is episode number 387, and this is your host, Dr. Brian D. Parsons, and we are live right here on the Paranormal King Radio Network at ParanormalKing.com, and I didn't really know this through most of the day today, but yeah, today is Mardi Gras. So happy Mardi Gras to y'all out there. And those of you who do not speak French, Mardi Gras means Fat Tuesday, and or it's also called Pancake Day, and I don't know, it's like Donut Week, I guess you could say. Yeah, a lot of food, a lot of greasy stuff for Mardi Gras, but yeah, it's always fun to celebrate that stuff. And of course, tomorrow is Ash Wednesday. It's a big week of holidays here in the United States, I guess. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really celebrate that, but been down to Nolo, as some people say, New Orleans. Nice place. Smells like dried beer and other things, but it's a nice place down there. But yeah, anyway, tonight we're going to be talking about cruising for Bigfoot. The Loch Ness Monster returns. It's back. And we're going to talk about that news blurb about the subspecies of clouded leopard potentially found in Taiwan. I'm not quite sold on that, and I'll tell you why. We're going to talk ghosts tonight. Yeah, ghosts. It's pretty rare that we do, but tonight we are. And we're going to talk some scientific reasons for ghostly experiences. Yeah, it's always interesting to mix science and ghosts because they always go so well together, like water and oil. Anyway, talk real briefly here about some of the conferences, conventions, like I do every week here. I've toned it down for my personal appearances. I knew I was going to have a very busy January and March. I have a trip coming up in a couple of weeks. I'll be live here next week. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll be back next week. But after that, I'll be out of the country for a week, and that'll be fun. Well, not completely out of the country. I'll be on some outlying islands of the United States, but talk more about that next week. And, I had a lot of other stuff planned, and I was kind of a little bit, I don't want to say burned out from last year, but having my own conference that I held in February was a lot of work, and it just seemed like I had a lot of stuff piling up, so it didn't really go out of my way to plan anything for this year. And my conference list is pretty short right now, but yeah, I got one. I got a radio show coming up in April, and I do have two conferences pretty much in a couple of weeks of each other. I'll be at the Haunted Heights Paracon 2019 in Houghton Lake, Michigan on the weekend of May 3rd and 4th. And the big event for me, I'm so excited about this, May 31st through June 2nd, the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Camping Adventure. That is going to be a ton of fun. I can't wait for that. PA Bigfoot Adventure.com. PABigfootAdventure.com. It's get your tickets quickly. That's all I can tell you. They're going to sell out fast. We got a bunch of stuff. Well, a few things going on this coming weekend. If you're in Columbus, Ohio, which I'm a couple of hours north of that, I'm off the weekend. Maybe I could go. I don't know. Got to get ready for my trip, though, I think. Gift of Light Expo is coming up March 9th and 10th in Columbus, Ohio. The Bayou, I guess, yeah, that's Bayou. It's not by me, it's Bayou. City Paranormal Symposium, March 9th, Conroe, Texas. I was trying to figure out why it's Bayou in Texas, but hey, to each their own. Um, Nothing this weekend in UFO events that I have on my calendar, but the cryptozoology, we have the 2019 Oklahoma Bigfoot Symposium down in Stillwell, Oklahoma, March 9th and 10th. Sounds like good times. Good times. And a lot of other stuff I saw popping up. I do want to talk about one event real quick before I get I know I'm going to shift gears and forget about it, so I'm going to do it right now. The Summer Haunt Fest 2019 is taking place on June 21st in Cayuga, Indiana. That's right on the border of Illinois and Indiana. It's on the opposite side of the state where I was born. I was born on the other side of the state. At the Willows Weep House. This event will have a VIP ghost hunt with John Zaffis, David Weatherly, Dave Spinks, as well as some other speakers might be involved in that as well. And it's going to be a really limited engagement, as it should be. These things are always better when there's fewer people, I think. Better chance to really figure things out. If you have too many people, everyone's talking, everyone's running around, it kind of ruins it. So limited event there for that VIP ghost hunt. I believe it's 20 tickets only. And the event itself will have a variety of speakers, as well as day tours of the house. And all the proceeds will go toward restoration of this, what I understand is a heavily haunted house. The house is in the shape of a cross, and it faces east. If I remember, that's the place I'm thinking for my Indiana hauntings memories. Tickets can be bought through PayPal by visiting the Facebook event site for the Summer Haunt Fest 2019. Be sure to print out the receipt, as that will be your ticket. It's a good idea. I believe there are also vendor spots available if you're in that part of the ghost hunting business. But I'm sure those are going to be going very quickly, as you also will know if you're in that part of the business. So head on over to the event site on Facebook for the Summer Haunt Fest 2019. Again, that's in Cayuga, Indiana. It's they're weird. Everyone's weird. Ohio is weird the way they pronounce cities, and as they are here, where I was born in Indiana, but it's spelled Cayuga. You'd think it would be Cayuga, but I don't know. They're just weird. We're all weird. I'm a Hoosier. I get it. But again, this is an interesting event. It's going to be part indoor, part outdoor, but it should be fine. The weather that part of June should be really nice. June 21st. It's going to be an interesting event. Nice mix of people. John Zaffis, David Weatherly, Dave Spinks. Great entertainment there. So again, find it on Facebook. I'm going to throw that event in the chat room. And if you're not in the chat room, well, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, don't worry. I get it. You got things to do. You're going to listen to this podcast after it's put up through Podbean or iTunes or Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. I get it. You have your own way of listening to this show, and that's fine. But I know you can figure it out how to find it on Facebook. But if not, don't worry. I will be posting that link as well as a whole bunch of links about all the stories I'm going to be talking about tonight through my Facebook page. And it's facebook.com/ParaNewsInsider. And you can also follow on Twitter at ParaNewsInsider. So I'm going to throw that link there in the chat room. And apparently, from rumor has it, Dita in our chat room is going to be having a birthday this week. So call the fire department in advance. Anyway, lots of stuff going on. Speaking of, kind of want to back up here, talking about the PA Bigfoot camping adventure. Good friend of mine, Jay Bachochin, is going to be on the network, Paranormal King Radio. He's going to be talking with Lon Strickler of Phantoms and Monsters this Friday, March 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Paranormal King Radio Network. So you don't want to miss that. Jay is an awesome guy, good friend of mine, and he's got lots of stories. And he's near this place called Bray Road. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. If you've ever heard of Bray Road, but he's been there and investigated a lot of stuff, and he's a really good communicator about information. Always asking me stuff, and just a great researcher, I think. Awesome guy, and it's gonna be a great show. He's a great speaker, and again, he's gonna be down there with his son, speaking at the PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure, the third PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure. So he's a Sasquatch and Dogman investigator from Wisconsin. Yeah, Wisconsin's own Jay Bachochin. Going to be on Arcane Radio this Friday, March 8th, 9 p.m. Eastern. And there's going to be a lot of us, a lot of the guys that are speaking at the PA Bigfoot are going to be really hyping this thing up. But tickets are going fast. So if you want to go to Farmington, Pennsylvania, and see a whole bunch of Bigfooties, I don't know what you'd call them, including myself. I'll be there as well. Rosemary Allen Golly will be there, David Weatherly, Dave Spinks, Paul G. Johnson, Rick Fisher, Stan Gordon, Jay Bachochin, Steve Coles, the Squatch Detective, and Ronald Murphy. Those are just the speakers. Doesn't even touch all the other people that are going to be there, such as Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Cliff Barrickman, we're going to talk about him here in a second, from Finding Bigfoot, will be there. Ken Gerhard, Bill Brock, Stacy Brown Jr. It's going to be intense. Rosemary Ellen Galley, I think the last time I checked, I think it was 104 books, something like that. And I got a long way to go. I got 6. Yikes. Yeah, it will be intense. Well, they say it's the adventure of a lifetime. I like the intense thing. Anyway, speaking of cryptozoology, we're going to get into cryptid news for this week. And, I did talk about paranormal conferences, conventions. I enjoy giving back. That's one big piece that I like to do is talk about conferences, conventions, because I enjoy going to them. I enjoy speaking at them, but I do enjoy listening to other people talk about what they're passionate about and their research on individual topics, and backing up what they've talked about. And it's always a lot of fun to go to these different types of things. And it seems lately there's been a lot of different things going on as far as that's concerned. And one thing that I've seen kind of starting to boom lately are paranormal cruises. So themed cruises, these things, they've been a hit for musicians, pretty much like the 80s bands. I mean, they're on them all the time. So it's a big hit for musicians, and I guess it kind of pays the bills for a lot of comedians as well. We've met a lot of, I don't know, you call them medium tier, low tier comedians that ride the ships out there, and a lot of different themed cruises. But the paranormal has arrived. They're starting to do it a lot more. There's every year there's at least 1 or 2 ghost cruises, and I think it's a good idea. I mean, you really have everyone's attention. Everyone's on the ship, and you're either going to be eating, going on excursions off the ship, fighting for a chair on the deck of the pool, or you're going to be listening to your favorite band or whatever on those ships. So that'd be a lot of fun. I've never been on a theme cruise before. I've been on 6 cruises, going on my 7th in a couple of weeks. But one of the most unique paranormal cruises is taking place this summer in Portland, Oregon. Starting June 15th and running through the end of September, the Portland Spirit, cool name for a boat doing a paranormal themed cruise, a jet boat will be running through the Columbia Gorge doing what's called the Columbia Gorge Bigfoot Adventure. Pretty good name. The jet boat will explore a 140-mile round trip up and down the Columbia Gorge heading through the Bonneville Locks. And that's going to raise the boat probably more than 70 feet. Going to go through plenty of, I think, a few sets of locks to get the, going back up river. You're going uphill, basically. And riders will see and hear the history of the river and the area, as well as about Bigfoot. And I was kind of, I don't want to say confused. I had to read the story a little bit because it said that Cliff Barrickman would be a part of all this. And I wasn't sure how he's going to be on every cruise from June 15th all the way through September 30th. But he's going to have a pre-recorded audio segment specifically recorded for this cruise. And so you'll get to hear a lot of the history of the area. And I'm sure as the cruise goes through, they'll know when to play these things. If you've ever been on a boat kind of excursion or cruise or anything like that, whale watching tour or something, generally when you hit areas of interest, they push play on the recorder and it'll talk. So that's pretty much what you're going to get, but still awesome, I think. Even if he's not actually on the ship, just hearing exactly what you're seeing or sightings that have happened in the particular areas that you're at the time, I think that's really interesting. And you're also going to stop at the Cascade Locks for lunch and pick up some Bigfoot bites. Bigfoot bites. I wonder what's in those. Maybe pepperoni? I don't know. Wishful tasting. Before heading home. So it's a 7-hour, 140-mile tour heading out of Portland, Oregon, up the Columbia River. And if I were anywhere near that area during the year, which I don't think I will be, I would definitely do this. And the price is right to me. It's only $98 a person. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but 7 hours on a boat is pretty darn good. You also have to pay a $5 landing fee at the, I believe that's at the Cascade Locks. But really and truly, what you're going to see, what you're going to experience, and it's not a huge boat. It's pretty small. It doesn't look like you're going to fit that many people on it. So it's kind of intimate. Is that a word you could use on a boat? I guess you can. But it looks like fun. And to have Cliff Barrickman doing a pre-recorded segment for that, I think that's pretty cool. And very unique Bigfoot cruise. And you can find more information about this Columbia Gorge Bigfoot adventure by going to bigfootcruise.com. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And I've always wanted to go to that area. It's in northern Oregon, so it's very close to southern Washington, which is really where I'd love to spend some time down there. And you probably maybe see Mount St. Helens from that area. Crater Lake is near that area, a few hundred miles away. But you could also visit the Columbia stores where they make all those cool clothes, shoes, and pants and jackets. Was it grandmother used to test them out or something like that? I don't remember. It was on the commercials. Yeah, good stuff. I used to wear that stuff until everybody else did. Now I don't. I still do, sort of. Anyway, that's cool. I wish I was out there for that, but guess I'll stick with the Eastern Caribbean. So let me I do have links for that there in the chat room. Here's a story about that. I'll throw that in the chat room. There it is. And again, if you're listening live in the chat room, you get these links right now. You can bookmark them for later. Or if not, don't worry about it. I get it. And I will post them later. And bigfootcruise.com, I'll throw that in there as well. So you guys can check that one out. Also, later on, have some pictures from some stories I'll be talking about. So that's another dimension that you're missing out on. Pictures and links, all those fun things. So, I want to take advantage of having a chat room at my disposal. So make use of it. And we're going to stick with cryptid news as we're going to talk about, yes, the Loch Ness Monster. And I know a lot of people here in the United States don't really care too much about the Loch Ness Monster, but I do know that I have some loyal listeners out there in the United Kingdom, in England, a few in Scotland as well. So welcome. I don't know what time it is out there, and I'm sure it's pretty early in the morning tomorrow. So it's already Wednesday out there. Wow, it's weird. It's weird talking to people, texting people before from the England area. I think about the same time, and it was the next day. I'm like, wow, I'm talking to somebody in the future. So it's like, how is Wednesday? Because it's only Tuesday. Or anyway, it's crazy stuff. Anyway, the Loch Ness Monster, it's back. It's alive, and well, at least in the news anyway. The Loch Ness Monster has been quiet for about a month now. You wouldn't know that because we just talked about it a couple of weeks ago. But the media and the people dependent upon Scottish tourism are proud to announce that Nessie has been spotted twice in the last 5 days. Well, it's been more than 5 days ago, but twice in the span of 5 days, I guess you could say. Lisa Brennan, a 30-year-old tourist, was a passenger in a vehicle driving toward Urquhart Castle back on February 23rd when she suddenly saw something in the water. Lisa shouted, quote, "Oh my God, I've just seen something," unquote. Well, I'm sure it was more higher pitched than that and probably a little, more squealish and yelling. Anyway, her partner, Danny, slowed the car down and she was able to get a photograph of a small speck of black on top of the water that she says is the Loch Ness Monster. Danny did not see anything, and he turned the car around to look for more signs of what Lisa had seen. Of the sighting, Brennan said, quote, "By the time I got the camera ready on my phone, the object had lowered into the water, so I only managed to get as much as I did on the photo as it then disappeared into the water." And if you've not seen the picture, I'm going to upload a... It's startling, folks. This is scary, how much you can see of this creature. Oh, brace yourselves. Oh my gosh, the Loch Ness, it's scary. The Loch Ness Monster. You might not sleep at night after you see this picture. I mean, look at that. Look at that detail. Oh my goodness. Whew. Just scary. Makes my heart palpitate. Yes, and if you're not in the chat room, what you're looking at is, or what we're looking at is, I don't know. You see some trees. You see some like bluish, grayish, and then you see a red circle. Yes, the red circle, and a little blob in the water. I think I see. Is that ducks over there? I gotta blow that up a little bit. Looks like ducks in the water. Something going on over there on the left. I don't know. Could be a UFO. I think it's in the water though. They're looking down. So if you've ever been to Loch Ness or seen Loch Ness, pretty much when you're looking at it from most places, and especially where they're at, I know where they're at because I've seen a lot of pictures from the going toward the Urquhart Castle area. They're up a few hundred feet above the loch, so most photographs are looking down at the water, and it kind of plays tricks on you because sometimes you see stuff and it looks a lot bigger than what it really is because of shadows and light, which I can kind of tell there's a big heavy shadow underneath it. It makes it look a lot bigger than what it really is. So what it is, I don't know. It's so far away, you really can't see any detail. And unfortunately, that's usually the issue with these pictures of Loch Ness. Now, on February 27th, just a couple of days later, Irish Nessie hunter Ian O'Fadigan used a webcam photograph to capture what he feels is the Loch Ness Monster. And it's not the first time I've talked about Ian here on the show. He's pops up time to time about photographs of the Loch Ness Monster. Now another black blob photographed in Loch Ness is now added to the collection of verified sightings of the creature. Of the sighting, O'Fadigan said, quote, "I'd been watching the webcam for about 20 minutes on the afternoon of the 27th when I noticed a dark object appear briefly. Seconds then, it was gone. I replayed the live cam and stopped it to take the photo without zooming in. There was no other boat traffic on the loch at the time, and the loch was calm. I knew immediately I had spotted Nessie and not a boat. Boats did not disappear from the screen. There was no further appearance of an object in that area after 20 minutes of watching. It's a great feeling you get when you photograph something out of the ordinary in Loch Ness, unquote. But I don't have that cool Irish accent to go along with that. He also said, when explaining the detail of the photograph, he said, quote, Nessie is the dark shape on the surface of Loch Ness on the opposite side of the loch, unquote. And I had the picture of that. So that's his description of the photograph. So if you have to explain something like that, I'm going to have to argue that maybe it's not the Loch Ness Monster and could potentially be something else. Probably anything else. Especially when you have to give that kind of detail. It's over there. It's in the corner. And I drew a red line around it. Yes, the dreaded red circle is back. Again. Yes, and here's Ian O'Fadigan's photograph. This one's even more startling, folks. Brace yourselves. Hide your children. Cover their eyes. Look at that. You can barely even see the red circle. There it is. Proof positive. Loch Ness Monster. There it is. Drop the mic. Yeah, there it is. Proof positive. 100%. Let's name it after him. The Ian Loch Ness Monster, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's really hard to tell. That could be anything. It could be a smear on the lens so far away, so small. But anyway, yeah, it's sad. We can't really get that kind of proof of the Loch Ness Monster, and I don't know, but it keeps it going. You know, no matter how insignificant any of these photographs are, it never really puts a dent in the belief system. Actually, it makes even more belief worldwide, let alone in Scotland, about the potential of this creature. And it was taken off of a webcam, which a lot of people do, though a lot of people watch that. I remember the one year where Google had the cameras in the water. I think it was just pictures, but it was pretty cool. Very murky water. It's way out there. So if you're looking at the picture there in the chat room, you see that kind of big tree there in the middle. If you just draw a line from the top of the tree up, you'll see a little to the right there, almost at the opposite shore, there's a little black blob in the water, and there's a very faint red circle drawn on it. Probably drew it on the CCTV. There it is. That's your Loch Ness Monster. Yes. Could be, yeah. As Dita said, mosquito on the lens. Could be. Yes, it's very hard. Yeah. Okay, so if you see the tree, like draw an imaginary line upward toward the other shoreline, and it's just a little bit off the shoreline, the opposite side. Yeah, see, that's just it. If you have to tell people where it's at, you don't see it, it's probably not the Loch Ness Monster, folks. So anyway, I'll give you that link in the chat room, so you guys can, it's the same pictures you're going to see everywhere else. It gives you a little bit more detail of the story. I just give you the finer details. There it is. And yeah, Loch Ness Monster. Yeah, it's great to believe in, but I don't know. Just don't have much belief in it. And I don't know. Just don't believe that much in that story. And another story that I'm having a little hard time really buying into it. At first, I was really excited about this, as I usually am, especially about big cat stories. You might have seen this in the news floating around. And when most people ask me about cryptozoology, because you kind of forget sometimes, when you're in the field and you've written a book about it, and that a lot of people don't know what cryptozoology means when you say, I'm going to be talking about cryptozoology. And they're like, yay, what does that mean? And you try to explain it, and they're just kind of like glazy-eyed. They're looking around like, I don't understand what you're saying. And then really all you got to usually say is looking for things like Bigfoot. Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. So yeah, it's just usually I just use Bigfoot. But cryptozoology is far more than that. And even those who research it and investigate it, they don't always agree on the finer points of what the field is really about, to what the focus is. Now, one of the more accepted sub-definitions of cryptozoology is a creature that is suddenly rediscovered. So yes, cryptozoology is basically about animals that are rumored to exist. They might have existed at one time as well. And that's kind of where we're going. And generally, it's based on local folklore. So people talking about things and people hearing the story and talking about it is generally where cryptozoology fits in versus science. So scientists go out in the woods, they discover stuff all the time. Underwater, they kill things and bring them up, and hey, we just discovered this. But cryptozoology is more or less about believing in the stories that are a little bit more outlandish than what scientists would believe in themselves. Until they swoop in, they make the discovery, and they get credit for it. And cryptozoologists never discover anything. It's always the scientists that discover everything. It's a really twisted field. But cryptozoology is not an official field. It's not a subsection of zoology. It's almost like a belief system, more or less. But anyway, creatures are sometimes suddenly rediscovered, and one that really is talked about quite a bit in cryptozoology is the coelacanth. The coelacanth is a great example. Now, sometimes you have animals that disappeared, or even plants for that matter, that disappeared from the record and thought to be extinct, only to appear again. So it's also called a Lazarus species, and these range from creatures like the coelacanth, which was only known from fossil records, having existed 65 million years ago, until it was suddenly discovered alive and well in the 1930s. People in South Africa and Madagascar knew this creature was around. Wasn't a favorite fish for them to catch. They generally threw it back, but they had no idea that it was basically a living fossil. It was a link between prehistoric fish and modern fish. So they didn't realize the scientific, bigness of it. I don't know how to describe that, but essentially the finding of the coelacanth was probably the biggest animal discovery of the 20th century. It was discovered in 1938. But they also have creatures that disappear for a few years, maybe even a few decades, only to make a comeback. And it seems like people give up on animals too quickly. And sometimes we think too highly of an animal's ability to recover at times as well. And when it's too late, it's too late. And we've seen a lot of species go extinct, and especially in my lifetime, I've seen a lot of stuff happen. And there's things happening right now that animals are disappearing off the face of the earth right in front of us. And it's due to some really stupid things like poaching. People think that ivory has magical abilities. And unfortunately, it comes from kind of a supernatural, paranormal kind of belief system. And people like that are killing these animals, and they're not gonna make it. They're all gonna disappear. But anyway, a recent story revolves around a variety of clouded leopard, basically a subspecies of clouded leopard that seems to have made a comeback. So clouded leopards live in various areas of Southeast Asia and China. Clouded leopards are considered a threatened species and are listed as vulnerable as a species overall. Now, the Formosan clouded leopard was declared extinct after an exhaustive 30-year search for signs of existence. But that might change soon if they can validate these sightings that have been rumored to have happened out of Taiwan. So reports out of Taiwan seem to indicate that the Formosan clouded leopard has been seen a number of times by locals and, yes, may no longer be extinct. This subspecies of clouded leopard has not been seen since 1983. And despite interviewing 70 hunters in 1986, as well as capturing over 13,000 camera trap nights, so that's a whole bunch of camera traps from the year 2000 to the year 2004, captured over 13,000 nights worth of camera traps, but nothing. Subsequent searches up until 2013, no signs of this cat at all. And the cat remained elusive on the 14,000 square mile island of over 23 million people. That's crazy. I mean, cats are elusive. Mountain lions are pretty darn big, and they're very elusive. They can travel halfway across the United States, and nobody even sees them half the time. And these guys, clouded leopards, are pretty small, and they're very, their patterns are very kind of dark. They're very, very elusive. I got a picture. Don't worry, I'll throw that in there. Villagers saw what they thought was a clouded leopard hunting goats on a cliff in the wilderness of southeast Taiwan. This sighting has not been confirmed. Other reports from last June include other villagers in the same area seeing the leopard, one of which was running out by a moped. Another was ran by people and climbed up a tree and was scouting goats. So, yeah, again, these reports have not been confirmed. And there is question as to whether these reports are legitimate. Now, if you read these stories, you've seen it pop up on Facebook, Twitter. A lot of people have got behind this story. I know even Lauren Coleman posted something about it. And for me, I read through it, and I'm still not convinced that what they're seeing is actually what they say they're seeing. This Formosan cat here, this leopard. Something just doesn't seem right about the story and what they're trying to do here. It's almost kind of like a political thing, even though they've mentioned that yes, the scientists have been searching for it for X amount of years, but other people have said that they have actually captured them and killed them, but hid the proof of that so they wouldn't get in trouble. I don't know. I mean, there are other cats on the island that could potentially explain these sightings, including the leopard cat, which is not the same as a clouded leopard. It's a little larger than a domestic cat, so very small compared to the clouded leopard. And the clouded leopard is not as big as the regular leopards that you're used to seeing. These are probably about half the size, and maybe even a little smaller, being on Taiwan. A little smaller than that, so it's really not that big, but much bigger than a house cat. But the leopard cat is a little larger than a domestic cat as well, but it actually shares very similar markings. So if you saw these two things side by side, yeah, you could tell the difference. But if you saw this leopard cat in the woods, you might mistake it for a clouded leopard. It would be pretty easy, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. It seems that the villagers are quick to want to change the environment. They're already trying to get a lot of things changed, such as logging and construction in the area shut down, even though the cat has not been validated. It's so fast. I mean, could there be a motive for them to report the cat's existence? That's what I'm wondering. Another thing about this story that I want to clear up that seems like it's really confused a lot of people, and I had to do my homework, I had to do my research. is that there's a photograph. Actually, there's a few photographs, but one in particular that's been attached to this story, and it makes people think that this cat was actually photographed by a trail camera or something, but it's not true. There are no photographs of this creature. One of the most passed around photographs of the cat is of a regular clouded leopard that looks like it's in the woods. However, this photograph was taken on September 3rd, 2013, which is kind of ironic since the Formosan clouded leopard was declared extinct in that same year. But the photo was taken at the Taipei City Zoo. And I do have that picture, and I'll throw it in the chat room. So if you've seen this picture, it's not of a Formosan clouded leopard. It's of a regular clouded leopard. And shame on people for posting that and not giving out that it was it's Getty Images. So they're breaking the law by not doing that. There it should be popping up. There he is. There she is. I don't know. It's a male or female. It's kind of squatting down. I'll go with female. Sure. And very beautiful coat on these cats. It's kind of like a grayish brown. And then it's got these black lines and large spots on it. It's unfortunate of how beautiful they are because they actually were hunted quite a bit for their pelts, for coats and other garments, unfortunately. And that's pretty much one of the reasons why it began to go into extinction, as well as for meat and things like that. But probably more so for the coat of anything. It's a beautiful cat, beautiful coat on that. And it's kind of a sad thing, but that's, it's what we do here on planet Earth. We kill things that are beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to move on to ghost news. And, well, I suppose I could throw a link in there about the cats. Yeah, I'll throw a link in there. Chat room about the kitties. The clouded leopards. And I'm going to keep an eye on this story. It's probably not going to develop in the next week or so. It's probably going to take a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, if anything is seen out there. But I'm going to say no, they're not going to find any proof of this. Not that I don't want it to. I wish they would. I really do. Hope they could rediscover this creature. Very beautiful creature, and it would be a very big success story for big cats, which I talk about quite a bit. But I just don't get the feeling that this is what they think it was. Yeah, I don't know. But again, I wish it were true. Anyway, we're going to move into ghosts. So we don't get too many stories on ghosts. So I'm really excited to bring this story. But it's not as glamorous as I wish it were. It's kind of I don't want to say derogatory thing towards ghosts, but it's not really a positive story about ghosts. But if you're a ghost investigator, ghost researcher, there's some very valuable information that we're going to be talking about. And it could be extremely important. It could save your life and or the life of a homeowner. Very important stuff here on the show. So over the last 20 years or so of investigating ghosts, there seems to be one thing that happens at every abandoned hospital, every prison, or even at people's homes that are purportedly haunted. And that one thing is that it seems to pop up in conversation, no matter where your EMF detector gets powered up, is the discussion of what ghosts are. Now, it's the big topic. Everyone's always asking each other, well, what do you think ghosts are? Clients will always ask me, well, what is a ghost? And you have to kind of paint it in a very broad brush, very broad stroke of what a ghost is. It's not, you can't define it by saying it's an interdimensional thing, or it's what we are when we're dead. And it's far more vast than that. So everyone has their own opinions on the matter. And much as what is thought to be known about ghosts actually goes back thousands of years, believe it or not. Ghost sightings have been documented for thousands of years. It's been written by the Greeks and Romans. So yeah, it goes back. And the scientific inquiry about ghosts was really fairly new. You're talking the late 1800s, around 1883, when the Society for Psychical Research was formed in Cambridge, England. And then a couple of years later, the American branch came to Boston, and then moved to New York. A few years later, the American Society for Psychical Research, and that's really when science began to really peer into this. Is there really anything of value in ghosts? And of course, we have parapsychology that came about in the 1930s and 1940s. And really and truly, since that time, believe it or not, no matter what you think, not a whole lot has changed. And that's very unfortunate. And science overall generally does not have a very favorable opinion about ghosts. Although there seems to be a breakthrough, which is kind of funny. There seems to be a breakthrough with science or medicine that borders on psychic phenomena or survival of bodily death every once in a while. I think it's funny, the same scientists that don't believe in ghosts, like, completely badmouth anybody that believes in it, suddenly coming up with some kind of study that really borders life after death. But hey, as long as we're making headway toward some sort of discovery, I don't care who gets, proof or validation or gets hoisted up or is on front of Time magazine. As long as we figure this out on the next 30, 40 years before I become one. Anyway, Scientific American published an article that originates from a site called Quick and Dirty Tips. This was back on February 25th that got my attention for the headline, which read, 6 possible scientific reasons for ghosts, with the subheading of, many people believe in ghosts, but could there be scientific explanations for some of our paranormal experiences? I thought to myself, this should be interesting. But I figured there would be a little, skepticism, probably heavy heaping of skepticism with that as well. But yeah, you'll get that from the science point of view. The article, that's pretty basic with its references to belief numbers such as 45% of Americans believing in ghosts and 18% saying they've had contact with a ghost. It gets to the subject matter very quickly and lists the 6 possible scientific reasons for ghosts, and then goes into detail with those 6. And I did figure these reasons would be dismissive, but I actually was happy to see a couple that were listed early on, at least. And the first one on the list was low-frequency sound. And the short blurb is referring to infrasound, low-frequency sound below 20 hertz, that cannot be heard by the human ear, but it can be felt by the body. And studies have shown that exposure to infrasound can create negative feelings, and infrasound is a byproduct of diesel engines, wind turbines, and even some speakers. So, yeah. So it's created, and it makes us all weird and nervous. And some people say that that's how Bigfoot can't be seen, because it scrambles your eyeballs with infrasound. So yeah, here we go. Ghosts and cryptids on the same page. I don't know if I believe that or not, but anyway, a lot of people in the ghost field have been talking about infrasound for quite a while now, really discussing that, and how does that, people are trying to tie that into proving ghosts exist, but unfortunately, infrasound kind of does the opposite. If infrasound is creating these emotions and feelings in us, maybe even creating apparitions out of nothing, then it really is not proving anything other than that individual cases are not happening. So as a ghost investigator, yes, be aware of infrasound, learn how to understand it, learn how to try and record it, figure out where it's coming from, and use that to eliminate potential explanations. And the second one, which I was really happy to see, but this is kind of it's not really proven. And it seems like a lot of people talk about this a lot. And it may be surprising to some of you guys out there. Mold is the number 2 potential scientific explanation for ghosts. Toxic mold can cause some neurological symptoms similar to ghostly interactions. And the article kind of asks, could this be why we see old houses and relate them to being haunted? Because old houses might have mold. Well, I think that's kind of silly. Probably not. But it's certainly not one that most ghost hunters think about when they go into a house, is mold. And mold can cause, again, neurological issues. People can see all sorts of things. The third potential scientific cause is carbon monoxide. And again, this was one I was very happy to see, and one probably not a lot of ghost hunters, ghost investigators actually test for when investigating claims of ghosts. But I'm telling you, this is probably more responsible for ghosts than anything else out there. And if you are a ghost hunter, ghost investigator, and you do client-centered cases, you better have a carbon monoxide test, some sort of plug-in device in your arsenal, or you're not doing your client any justice. One story is mentioned in the article of a famous case back in 1921 where a family was experiencing footsteps, apparitions, and negative emotions from the feeling of something evil being present. The story is actually easy to find on quite a few furnace repair company websites, believe it or not. It's passed around a lot. And it's one story I researched a long time ago when I heard that, carbon monoxide poisoning could be a potential explanation. I was pretty drawn in by that. And I've actually, many cases I've seen very high levels of carbon monoxide in a building. So this is, I mean, if I've had cases where it's been plausible that this was the case, then I'm sure a lot of other people have had it as well. And it's not just some senses, the actual case itself. If you find I got a link for it. I'll share it here in the chat room, and I'll share it during the week as well. So the family in question was seeing apparitions, hearing footsteps, and seeing strange things, as well as sensing evil things. So they were having weird emotions and feelings. But on top of all that, they were also experiencing sheets being pulled back off their bed. The beds were actually rattling. They were being touched by unseen hands. They were being paralyzed when waking, which we all know is something potentially a little bit different. But how does that tie in with carbon monoxide? Maybe sleep paralysis, but maybe that could be tied in. That experience could be tied into carbon monoxide poisoning. Being touched by unseen hands, again, being paralyzed when waking, hearing voices, hearing loud sounds, which I get that quite a lot. People will be in a home and they'll hear like entire dining room's dishes crashing on the floor, and they walk in there and there's nothing there. So it's a type of hallucination. And they also experience plants dying, which is a pretty big dead giveaway, and it's a question I'll ask very subtly, and I'll walk around the home to see if they have plants, so I can see, maybe they're being affected by it, and also look at and around any openings of the house, the door, front door, if plants are dying as well. But all this seems legitimate. It sounds like ghostly interactions here, but a family member suggested that they had heard about other accounts where gases were the cause of the symptoms, and it turned out they were right. The furnace had been flooding the home with carbon monoxide instead of going through the chimney. And again, this is way back in 1921. They can figure out then. We should be figuring that kind of stuff out now here in 2019, almost 100 years ago. Wow. People report flu-like symptoms, but carbon monoxide poisoning also includes headaches, dizziness, nausea, drowsiness, weakness, vomiting, probably not pea soup, chest pain, shortness of breath, confusion, hallucinations, loss of consciousness. It sounds like my weekends normally, and even death. Yes. That last one is why it's important that all ghost teams should be carrying a carbon monoxide detector. CO poisoning is caused since it's absorbed into the body quicker than oxygen into the red blood cells and can lead to cerebral hypoxia. So cerebral hypoxia basically means lack of oxygen to the brain, which I know a few people that suffer from that daily, but it can be fatal if not treated. Well, after those first three, which were valuable, we get to the last three explanations, scientific explanations for ghosts, or I should say potential scientific explanations for ghosts. The fourth one here is the power of suggestion. So in short, we tend to put more stock in paranormal events if someone else backs up these beliefs. And I do observe this quite a bit at public ghost events where people seem to be convincing each other of individual events. And these individual events, when they validate them to each other, tend to continue to push the overall belief in ghosts and subsequent phenomena. And again, that's why it's so important to be as objective as possible. It's hard to do that when you're creeping around the house with a flashlight and you want to have experiences. We all want to have experiences. I get it. But you have to be as objective as possible. The fifth scientific explanation for ghosts is drafts. Not giraffes. Drafts. Like wind, breezes. Not one giving birth on a camera that everyone's watching. I'm not watching it right now. I was watching it last night. Anyway, this one might have a little merit, but the author, I'm kind of condescending a little bit with the way I read it. It sounds as if people are fooled by open windows. Now, drafts can cause a lot of things to happen, and two openings can create a very powerful vacuum. Even if the conditions outside seem like there's not a whole lot of air movement or wind, it can create a lot of weird things happening in a home. And you have to be very careful with that. We used to use baby powder. It squirted up in the air and you could see it move around. Yeah. The last scientific explanation for ghosts, well, in short, it is we enjoy being afraid. Dopamine released can lead to the feeling of pleasure related to being afraid. So this is why public haunted houses are a big draw, especially toward the fall, around October, Halloween time, and why scary movies do well in theaters. Granted, the author also explains that belief in an existence after death may also bring comfort. And again, this doesn't mean that this explains every kind of ghost. I think each of these may have a little bit of a merit to explain a portion or a percentage, but I think these 6 explanations overall don't even touch the majority of the cases out there. There's so many other things that could cause a person to think that they have a ghost in their house, from chipmunks or raccoons in the attic to even earthquakes, to other more serious things such as neurological diseases not caused by carbon monoxide, but caused by other things, family-related, disease-related issues. It goes on and on. There's a lot of different things that can cause people to interpret ghosts, and maybe even ghosts. That's possible. You never know. Never say never. And I think that's it. That's our show tonight. Wow, wrapping it up early. I should say on time, I guess, for a change. And I will be back next week. I will be off 2 weeks from now, but next week, expect a good show. I think we're going to see some really interesting stories. There's quite a bit that I kind of sidestepped this week. There's a couple of UFO stories that were floating around, but they were not what you thought they were. Um, if you were watching my Twitter and Facebook feed, I had a story that I didn't talk about the week before that I ended up putting in the Facebook feed about reliable methods for detecting extraterrestrial life. Basically, to sum that up, it's basically an instrument that can detect living plants at a distance. I don't remember what it's exactly how it did it, but it's something with light. Light reflected from foliage. It can pick it up, these molecules, and they're probably going to use this potentially on other planets, maybe on Mars, to kind of try to sniff out potential plant life on other planets. That would be interesting. Anyway, we'll see you next week, definitely here on the Paranormal News Insider. But in the interim, keep your eyes in the skies, your ears in the woods, the hair standing on the back of your neck, and always keep your mind slightly ajar. And above all else, that's right, don't stop believing. For the Paranormal News Insider, this is Dr. Brian D. Parsons reporting.